All right, real talk. I'm headed to Italy soon, and it's my first time, and trust me, I am ready. Chianti and pasta? Hello, my little friends. I'm prepared to make carb loading my entire personality for 2 weeks. Actually, it's probably an improvement to my personality, to be honest. Anyway, in the process of planning, I fell into a total digital rabbit hole. I've been doing what we all do, obsessively checking Google reviews from randoms and scrolling through location tags on Instagram, and honestly, I'm fucking over it. Why is it that everyone with a ring light and a preset filter suddenly thinks they're a Michelin critic? Half of these so-called reviewers are just influencers in disguise. Let's call it what it is. If the review is glowing and the lighting is perfect, someone was probably compensated in free focaccia or cold, hard cash. That authenticity is gonzo. I've officially reached the point where I no longer trust those 5-star reviews. I'm kicking it old school. I'm sticking to the inner circle. Opinions from friends who actually know what a good vintage tastes like. And let's be real, I'm being selective there too. Sorry, guys. I'm going back to the holy travel grail, the Lonely Planet. I bought the Rome and Florence guides. Give me a legit travel writer who actually understands the assignment and gets paid to tell the truth, not someone looking for a collab. If I'm going to get lost in an Italian alleyway, I want a pro to be the one who steered me there. Welcome to the Fuck You 50s, the podcast for women who refuse to tolerate the bullshit anymore. This is real talk, real stories, and a long overdue reality check. I'm your host, Andrea Claire, and this podcast is the filter-free voice you've been waiting for, with a dose of F-bombs. The Fuck You 50s, unfiltered, unapologetic, and undeniably needed. My guest today is a creative powerhouse who has spent her life designing worlds for others to marvel at. Dawn Robyn is an accomplished art director, set designer, and costume designer with a resume that reads like a theater lover's dream. Chef's kiss. Including the Tony Awards and the Radio City Christmas Spectacular. And let's pause there for a second. At Radio City, Dawn didn't just take the job, she shattered a massive glass ceiling as the first ever woman to hold the position of head scenic designer. But today you won't find her in the darkness of a stage tech day. Instead, she's in the beautiful Catskills. Dawn is now the founder and executive director of Rosemary Farm Sanctuary. She has traded the high-stakes world of entertainment for the equally demanding and often gritty world of horse rescue. Please take a gander. Yes, that is a farm pun. You're welcome. In the show notes for the Nat Geo piece on the Rosemary Farm. In this episode, we're diving deep into navigating gender dynamics in two very different yet equally tough industries, theater and farming. Why volunteering is the ultimate secret weapon for testing a new passion before you blow up your life. A candid look at the horse slaughter industry and why accountability is the most important word in the nonprofit world. Dawn is a living reminder that our 50s aren't for winding down. They're for finally having the courage to build the world we actually want to live in. A new dawn has risen, and we are here for it. Dawn, welcome to the Fuck You 50s.
I'm really happy to be here. You've got a great show. It
Thank
looks like
you.
a lot of fun, and you're getting some really nice guests. So.
Yes,
Well,
thank you.
nice. Sassy.
Yes, yes.
Interesting. Yes.
I'm almost hitting my year mark now. And
Yeah.
and like you, I also come from, I think you probably know, but I come from an
Yeah.
on-set background. I'm a hair and makeup artist. So
Right.
I love your story. I wanted to
Well,
hear
thank you.
definitely more about it.
Sure. I was a set and costume designer.
Okay.
And that was an offshoot of fine art. So I guess I don't think of myself as one thing. You know, I pursued my interests just like you're supposed to. And that led to a career in theater. And that was what I pursued educationally.
Yeah. And that was at the Yale School of Drama, right?
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah.
And then after finishing my education at Yale, I moved to New York, which is what, all good designers do.
Yeah.
And was in a share in Brooklyn and started getting work and building a career there. And I had a blast. It was a lot of fun.
I feel like for the most part, most people that I know that are in and around our like entertainment industry usually do have a blast. I feel like it's like we have a blast until we don't.
I think that's a really good way of putting it. Yeah, I was getting hired more, which is great, except that the work was turning more commercial.
Yeah,
And then you find yourself up at 4 a.m. picking curtains for a show on ABC. And you're like, okay, this was not exactly my creative trajectory. And so I started pulling back from that stuff and kind of adjusting the work that I had and ended up getting more into fine art again
yeah,
and doing live installations. So it's kind of combining theater and fine art and creating pieces that were starting to get a lot more press, which
yeah,
is great, but also there's always a double-edged sword with that.
of course.
So,
Yeah,
at that point, I had a huge studio in Red Hook, Brooklyn, and I loved that studio. I had a great time.
and so what primarily kind of work were you doing at that point with your art? Like, 'cause I see that you're a painter, so is it,
Yes.
like, painting and sculpture?
Painting, sculpture, yes, I was at the Art Students League for a few years, and I was, the assistant sculpture instructor there. My installations were a combination of those things.
Okay.
So, basically like theater,
Yeah,
you're creating, a piece of art to affect people, and you're using, all kinds of media, including, creating the work on the opening day of the show in front of people. That was a lot of fun. I was having
yeah.
a good time.
And I feel like we also, just for the listeners, need to touch on, like, some of your work that you have done included, like, the Tony Awards and
Yes.
the Rockettes.
Yes, that's right. I was the art director for the Tony Awards for 5 years, and then from there, I became the head scenic designer at, Radio City for the Christmas Spectacular, and I was actually the first female to hold that position,
That's
and nobody
amazing.
really even noticed that. At one point I asked, I said, "Has there ever been a female in this role?" And they were like, "Ah," and kinda went through and were like, "Oh, I guess not." So to me, that was a big deal.
That is a big deal.
I was really proud of that.
Yeah, 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 for sure. And that what year was that,
Oh my god, you're
last?
gonna ask years.
I'm sorry.
We bought this place in 2008, which
Okay.
I just confirmed before we did this interview. And so it probably was 2006, 2005,
Okay.
2007, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
I could check. I've got the
No,
posters on the
no, no,
wall.
no, 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 that's okay. It's funny though too. It's like for me, at one point in my career, like I was running Fashion Week, like a hair
Oh,
team for
wow.
Fashion Week, and I did, like, Canadian Idol, running the team for
Uh-huh.
Canadian Idol. And yeah, when people are like, "What year was that?" I'm like, "Oh, I don't know."
Right. Yeah.
Let me do a quick Google.
Year just never is something that feels that important to me, and so I try and my brain is full of so much stuff that I guess it probably prioritizes. I had a blast doing Radio City. It's the largest proscenium in New York City, and actually the largest indoor proscenium in the world. It's 100 feet wide. A
Wow.
normal Broadway proscenium is 50 feet wide.
Oh, wow.
So there's simply different architecture that needs to happen in engineering with
Yeah,
scenery at that scale. Designed some larger than life Rockette logo that was individual letters that lit up that became the opening number, and the Rockettes could walk on top of them and dance on top of them, and they move and split apart. And I don't know if that's still in use. Radio City brings in a new scenic element every year and then rotates out a scenic element that they feel has aged. And so that way they keep the show fresh,
mhm.
but they can't afford to redesign the entire show every year. It's exorbitant.
Right, yeah,
Um,
absolutely. They must have a big warehouse somewhere as well.
so I had several pieces that were part
Yeah,
of that and redesigning, and it was a lot of fun. I was very proud of myself for getting to do that, but it was actually a day in tech at Radio City that I kind of decided I'd had enough.
yeah.
And it's not Radio City's fault at all. I mean, that space is glorious, but there was one day and, 15-hour tech days, you know those.
Mhm.
And you're in this dark, enormous, empty Radio City, and you got your little tech table and you got your little lights. It's just vast darkness. And the other tech tables are little islands of light in the darkness, and you're running the scenes, and it's important to do, but my work was done. So I was kind of babysitting my design.
Yeah.
And it's boring, Uh, it's good that it's boring. It means you've done your job and everything's finished.
Yeah,
But I remember that it was beautiful out because we were teching that show in September,
right.
and September in New York is gorgeous. And I was so was like, if I die today, I'm going to be really mad that I was inside all day and it's so beautiful out. And so I'm having a conversation in my head. Maybe you do this too. One part of
Yes.
your brain talks to another part.
Yep.
So my
Yep.
brain's like, well, then why are you here? Well, I have to save money. Well, okay. Do you have any money saved? Yes, I have money saved. Well, how much money do you have to have saved? And so then my other brain said, well, if you've got money saved and there's never enough, then that means there's always enough.
Yeah.
And so I quit. I didn't walk out. No,
Yeah. It
but
wasn't that dramatic. You're like, drop your pen.
it
Bye.
was a big it was a big change when I
Yeah.
recognized that I was still chasing some goals that were younger goals that have to do with coming from a place of need and lower income family and struggling and putting my way through school,
Yeah.
that I was okay. So I really at that point shifted a lot of my work to these live assemblages, which were growing in scale, and my studio was growing in scale. And I was with someone then who I later married, and he said, with that money you're paying on rent, we could have another mortgage. We just bought a place in Brooklyn, and that took years and years of effort to finally be a property owner. And he's like, well, why don't we get a farm? I'd like a few more acres because we
Yeah.
had an eighth of an acre backyard. And
Yeah. Like, I
oh,
want
we get
space
a
with no
backyard.
humans around me.
Right. So we ended up buying a farm in the Catskills, and it was totally crazy.
And do
And
do either of you come from having any farm
no,
experience?
no, no, I'm from DC and he's from Chicago.
Okay.
I knew that it was kind of a dream to be on a farm and have animals, but I thought it was just a kind of a silly dream. I didn't think it was real. I had convinced myself that horses were very expensive and that I would never have the money. So I was never going to be a horse owner.
Mhm.
And that was part of what had to change too. I guess our perception of ourselves sometimes can take a while to catch up
Yeah.
to what is true about ourselves now. Like, you're gorgeous. Look at you. And I'm
Thank
like, I'm a
you.
mess. And you're doing all this great stuff. And but I don't know if you've caught up to that a vision of yourself yet. And I think it's common, especially for women. It's almost like it's not cool to think good of yourself. And so I really didn't think I would own a horse.
Yeah. Yeah.
Made up for it.
I feel like like that idea that you're saying, like catching up to the idea of yourself. I feel like I've been working through that, which is
Yeah.
my podcast has been almost kind of helping with that. You
Oh,
know,
that's great. That makes sense.
I feel like I don't know if you know, but I had lived in Singapore for 15 years, and so we had just moved back a couple of years ago to. Like, I'm from Canada, so I'm in Toronto, and
Mhm.
I found that there are just some things that I was not happy with in Singapore. And I talk about this a lot on my podcast. It's just, I'm a workaholic. I love doing hair and makeup. I still do it. There's some ageism that happens in the industry. There's definitely some sexism that happens in the industry.
Yep.
And just kind of seeing how that is playing out, especially in Singapore. And it was just like, where am I in all of this? I feel like I don't want to say the lack of tolerance, but I just see some bullshit that happens on set or
Mhm.
conversations that people have where I'm just like, I just don't want to engage in that. Like, but most of the time it's good. I don't know about you, and I don't work on stage.
I
No.
think that there's those aspects in any industry.
Yeah.
And ironically, I think we also use those. I mean, if you're designing something, I know I used to say, all right, who's my target audience
Yeah.
and what will appeal to them? So in a way, I'm feeding back some of those very ideas. So it's interesting. And
Yeah.
and as I've been observing horse herds and starting to see gender stereotypes
Yeah.
in the herds, which I think is hilarious. You'll see three mares standing together side by side like cheerleaders and two geldings doing their
Yeah.
thing. And I was like, this is high school. This is all high school. So there's certainly something that I think we need to at least acknowledge and respect that there are differences amongst
Yeah.
genders and there are deep traditions that have formed over our species evolving and over all species evolving.
Yeah.
It's just interesting to watch,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
observe and maybe accept. That
Yeah.
doesn't mean that we want to accept being bullied or being pushed around because of our gender, but at least sort of recognize. Like a lot of the farmers and hay suppliers up here did not want to really deal with me. They're like, "Where's your husband?" Well, he's in editing a film. I run the
Yeah.
farm. So chop chop.
Yeah,
But there have been times with some people that I've just said, you know what, I'm just gonna go get him because
yeah,
that person needs that. They're uncomfortable. And
yeah.
so sometimes working with someone's uncomfortability, let's go get him and we can talk about it together, maybe helps make a bridge to them slowly working with
It's
me.
true, and honestly, sometimes I would take advantage of that. It's like if I knew the answer for something,
Mhm.
but I didn't necessarily wanna answer it, and I would say, "Oh, I just need to check with my husband."
Yeah. Yeah. I hear
Yeah,
you. Right. So we're aware and sometimes we use it to our advantage.
yeah,
There was one hay supplier who started taking advantage of me and it got very comfortable. He'd say, "Oh, I'm going to drop off a load of hay." And I was like, "Great. Thank you. Do I need to go out?" "No, no, we'll unload it for you." So they'd unload it. It started being the bales were smaller and smaller and some of them were crap. And I call, "Oh, well, we hadn't set the baler yet." "Okay." Try and be understanding, try and be a good business partner. And really, he was
mhm,
just taking advantage of me until the hay he was leaving was a joke. I mean, it was
yeah,
falling out of the strings. There was no hay. So I said, "How much are these bales supposed to weigh?" He's like, "Well, between 45 and 50 pounds." I said, "Okay." So the next time he showed up with a load, I walked out with a scale
nice.
and he set the scale down. I said, "You said the bales were 45 to 50, so let's weigh a few." And they were not.
Yeah,
They were 35-pound bales, and that's okay. They were fine hay, but that wasn't what he said. I was tired of being pushed around. I said, "Take them away." And that was fine with me because I don't want contentious relationships. We try and find people who have ethics, who want to sell a good product,
yeah,
that want it easy.
yeah,
I don't want to be arguing with somebody. This is my home as well as now our nonprofit.
yeah.
So I want to feel safe and comfortable in my home.
Yes, I 100% agree. So you no longer work on set, right? You're done with the set industry?
Basically, my husband is a filmmaker.
Yeah,
And so I still design sometimes for him. I haven't worked on the stage in many years.
yeah,
And I'm tempted to say sadly, and I loved, loved, loved it. But I moved on to something else. I have horses now.
yeah.
And it was a trade.
Well, and the one thing you said when we were emailing back and forth too was that you look at your farm as like your sanctuary as one of your greatest installations,
Yes,
which
absolutely.
which I think
Yeah.
also is fantastic.
I would just say that I didn't really feel like I left designing. I didn't leave art. I'm applying those skills and that aesthetic here.
Yeah,
And when you're designing a set, for example, you're really thinking about the ground plan because you're thinking about how an actor is going to need to make an appearance, how they can exit, how the set is a dynamic element of the story being told. And that is very much true here. So I got to design some barns and I got to think about how horses use the space and
yeah,
what do I want and what do I think is safe, and also how humans enter the space and that feeling of grandeur and trying to maintain the sense of openness and beauty and not just drop buildings where it might be practical, but it's also ugly.
yeah.
So I really enjoy that part of developing the sanctuary.
And you must have had a lot of, like, learning curves as well, because if that's not your background,
Yes.
then did you, like, have, people that you would consult with to kind of, like, understand what horses needed? Was that
Sort
I
of.
mean, you had some horseback riding in your background,
I
right?
did have
So
horseback riding, and I had an early desire to connect to the horse I was riding. So I would book the lesson right before that horse's lunch break so that I could take off the tack, groom, spend a little more time trying to sneak in time and have a relationship with that horse. So that came naturally to me from a young child. But I really believe that if you're an intelligent human being, and I'm going to say female in this context,
mhm,
you're an intelligent female, and you've been to school, you know how to study, you know how to observe, you know how to make conclusions, and so I felt like I brought those skills to this world with horses, and it was pretty obvious to me when a horse was in pain and saying no.
yeah,
I don't think you have to be a skilled person to necessarily observe some of that.
yeah,
And
and
so that was something that, when I was at auction, I was astounded at the pain and the fear that I was witnessing in the horses and how many people were cavalier about that.
yeah.
And I was like, fuck this. This is bullshit. I don't need to be a horse expert to know that that horse needs something different.
But I also think it sounds like you have a really strong connection with horses. I don't think everyone has that. My mother has a horse farm
Right,
and she is a bit of a horse whisperer and she's got like a strong like you can see the difference with people when you really connect
right.
with them, right?
I think
And
that's true.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I had read you had bought from an auction a horse for $5.
Oh,
Is that right?
yes. We've bought multiple horses for $5. The less the horse costs, the more the horse is going to be to rehab. You look for signs of pain. Horses do hide a certain amount of physical pain, so you have to really watch and see. But yes, the one that you're probably thinking of is a horse that we named Finn.
Yes.
All you musical theater people, come on, guys and dolls, slap me a Finn, $5. So that's how Finn was named. And
Okay.
Finn was maybe 18 months old, and he was basically unhandled stud colt. So he was intact, and most domestic male horses are gelded.
Right.
And so he was not yet gelded, and nobody really wanted him. And he was kind of ugly. I didn't think so at the time. I thought he was beautiful. But looking back at photos, he was all ewe-necked and skinny and kind of pigeon-toed and big
Oh,
head and
yeah.
filthy, just underweight, undermuscled young horse. And
Yeah.
I that was my first auction. So he was not my first horse. He was my first auction. And I watched horse after horse sell. I wanted to see how much he sold for because I was sure he was going to sell for a lot, because he had chrome and he had black points and he was handsome. And at 2.5 hours of watching horses sell and they're selling and he's still not on the floor. And I had driven up from Brooklyn that day because
Mm.
we, for a time, we had both places. And so I'm in my Brooklyn clothes and I've got my Starbucks and I have a bid number and I'm watching. And finally, the auction's almost over, and I was like, "I must have missed him somehow." They open up these chain link gate panels, and they made, a giant cage of the auction floor, and that was for my horse. And so, right away, when you do that, nobody is gonna want the horse. They're just gonna watch for fun
Yeah.
to see what crazy thing they're trying to sell. So they started bidding, 200 bucks, great prospect, finish him like you want. Come on, people. And they're chasing him around and make him show off his gates and I'm watching and watching. And there's 10 people left, nobody cares. 100 bucks, deal of the night, make him yours, blah, 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 patter, patter, patter. Going on, going on. $50. You're never going to regret this great call. All right. I know this is crazy, but somebody's got to start this for $5. Let's start bidding at $5. And nobody bid. And that was a watershed moment for me too, because I was there and I'm clutching this ticket. When you go from dreaming about doing something to
Yeah.
doing something is sometimes an enormous leap.
Yeah.
And so that was a moment for me
You like
because
threw up your hand. You're like, I guess I'm in it.
I said, well, what's going to happen to him? They're like, you want the colt? And I was like, well, but I didn't really bring a halter. They're like, you want the colt? Well, and they're like, you want the colt? I said, okay. And they're sold. And they called and sold on me. And that auctioneer came down. He put his arm around me and walked me to the cashier because the minute I paid for him, he was my problem.
Right. Yeah.
And there was talk about what was going to happen to the colt. That was partly why I was getting more and more fearful. But yes,
And
I
it
bought him.
was it mainly because he was just wild or was he wild and ugly? Like why
It
was
was not that wild in comparison to horses of that sense. But when you have a stud colt, you can't really throw them on the trailer to slaughter with a bunch of mares because he's going to try and mount everybody. And then there's going to be injuries. And then you got bloody horses coming off and the whole rig gets rejected. So a dealer isn't really that interested. And the end of the auction, they're saturated. They're buying, nice fat horses for $100. Nobody just wanted him.
Yeah.
He was anonymous. He had no parentage that we knew of, no breeding we knew of. He's
Right.
just this, kind of ugly, underfed brown horse. So I bought him. And he's my herd leader now. He's unbelievably magnificent. He
Yeah.
filled out like classic ugly duckling to swan story with Finn. He is gorgeous. And at that time, so we brought him home that night, and that's a whole other story. I had to keep him separate until I could get him gelded. And so I had a very kind vet come out and they said, we can't geld him. I said, why not? They said, we can't touch him. you got to halter train first. And that took a couple months. So we had to keep him separate. We would go down and give him a good night carrot every night. And I read to him. I know it's crazy, but
No,
it
it's not
does
crazy.
acclimate them to your voice. It's not training. I know he's not magical, but it does acclimate him to someone being kind, having someone around that's not got an agenda, that's
Yeah.
not trying to
Just
hurt him or
trust,
push
right?
him.
Like I was
You're
saying
building
it
you're
yeah,
building familiarity. You're building a friendship,
yeah,
like this person must want to be here. So,
yeah.
yeah, so we finally got Finn gelded and then let him join our other few horses. And we had a Mustang at that point who was very, very smart, small, very ethical, kind. And so Finn kind of became his protege.
Okay.
And for a year, Finn learned underneath whisper. And I say that Finn is bilingual because he learned horse and he learned human.
Yeah.
And one day, Finn was in charge. And so Finn stepped into herd leadership very young in his life. Finn has been the herd leader here for 15 years now,
Wow.
alongside Molly, who is also the herd leader. And many people will talk about whether the mare's really in charge or the stallion is.
I
No,
mean,
he belongs
really,
to
it's, the female usually we're in charge, right?
well, they are a tight pair, and Finn can rule with the tiniest little ear flick. I trust Finn and Molly very well. That took years to build that relationship.
And
And
how many horses do you have now?
the sanctuary owns 107 equines.
Okay.
Most of them are horses. We have a handful of mules and one donkey. The donkey we have right now is a donkey named Dottie. And Dottie's owner passed, and she had not seen another equine since she was a baby.
Wow.
So it was a real shock to her to come here. She just shook with fear and she missed her home.
Yeah.
And it's important to always recognize that. We have a lot of equines that have come from really loving homes that literally the owner aged out before the horse did.
Yeah.
And those horses miss their home.
Yeah.
And so Dottie is now besties with a Percheron mare named Effie. And Effie is a former carriage horse in the city. They're hilarious together.
Do you have on your website, and I should know this because
It's
I've been on your
okay.
website.
We have a very comprehensive website.
Do you have like images of the different animals that you have and like little
Yes.
bios about them?
Every single one has a page and a bio. I have an amazing board member who Anna, who does all of the updating on our website for us.
And so did this was this just something that you guys just kind of fell into doing, or did you have any kind of like pre-planning, or was this like a 50 like over 50 dream of having, I guess you got the farm before you
Yes.
turned 50 anyway, right?
Yes, that's correct. I guess I don't like to say I fell into something because I think it's important to remember that we always have a choice. And so if we did not say no, then we did say yes.
Hmm.
And it's also, I think, common for especially women to not own their choices. So at some point there were choices made and there continue to be choices made. And I like owning that because then I can also change it.
Right.
So this was it was an evolving choice. The first choice was, wow, I'm going to own a real horse. And then, oh, wow, this horse doesn't like to be ridden. And this horse hates me. And let me learn why and what's going on. And what do you mean horses are going to slaughter? I'm smart. Let me learn about slaughter. And then recognizing at some point someone said, well, I was actually looking to adopt a horse from a rescue. And they said, do you need to ride? And I thought that's a really interesting question because I love riding, but I don't need to ride.
Yeah.
I love horses. And that was also a big recognition. And then the universe just opened up. And every horse, if there's a God put a little tick mark beside my name every time I wish for a horse. And I don't know
Yeah.
when that list is done. Every classic horse in need, thoroughbreds that have been thrown aside, Mustangs that couldn't tame, carriage horses that aged out of doing work, all of those classic stereotypes have come here. And it's incredible because I have amazing relationships with all of them. I feel quite lucky. So the sanctuary now has 240-ish acres.
Okay.
And that is a combination of land that the nonprofit has purchased, as well as the initial purchase that my husband and I made.
Mhm.
So we now have more acres than Prospect Park, which is super cool.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I would say that we're basically at capacity until
Okay.
we get more land. But we felt like we were at capacity before and squeezed in a few more. Sometimes it depends on the needs of that horse.
Right.
So we ask a lot of questions in advance
Yeah.
about a horse being presented to us as to whether or not we can meet their needs.
Yeah, for sure. And do you ever like rehab some horses and then adopt them out
Yes, we
or
do.
yeah.
Yes. Adoption is not our focus, but we do adopt out horses. We have an adoption process similar to adopting a dog or cat from the local shelter. So you fill out an initial application.
Yeah.
And then if I think that we might have a horse, we schedule a meet and greet and we'll choose like 3 horses and kind of speed date.
Yeah.
And we see if there's chemistry and we
Yeah.
see what your handling skills really are and if you and a horse are a match. I want our adopters happy.
Yeah.
So if someone is trying to adopt a horse to ride, I try and make sure that I think that that horse has got at least like 5 years riding.
Yeah.
Now, there's exceptions to everything, but yes, we do adopt out.
So coming from the film and set industry, like we're often
Yes.
wired to believe that everything is figure outable, like
Yes.
the like never say no. So did you find that set life bravado protected you from any kind of imposter syndrome? Or did the reality of managing all the horses gave you a big reality check?
I think that one solution to imposter syndrome is always being honest. And it's okay to say, I don't know this piece, but I have this to offer. And so you're recognizing responsibly, what you do and don't have. I do always believe that things can be solved, but I didn't know that was unique to our industry. I guess I'm an optimistic person
Yeah.
and I've always sort of tackled things and figured them out. So maybe that's what led me to theater. I don't know.
I find it interesting because I do find a lot of it is I want to say our industry, but I feel like it's more of an old school industry thing because I find a lot of like the newer people, they're quick to say no. Like if a director wants something, they're like, no, that can't be done. And I mean, within reason, of course, like obviously
Right.
there's some things that you can't achieve, right? But I was brought up in that part of the industry where
Mhm.
it's like, if you say no, you're not going to get hired in the next
Right.
job. So it's always figure it out. Like, for example, I don't do special effects. And
Uh-huh.
I remember years ago working on a TV commercial for Staples. The director had come up to me and said that he was given an opportunity to do a director's cut. So it wouldn't play on camera for the TV commercial, but for his reel. And he wanted to have the 2 guys fighting in a warehouse. So I had to give like black guys, which I can do like out of kit special
Right.
effects. So a black guy, no problem. But he
Right.
wanted a fat, bloody lip. I literally don't do special effects. I don't carry
Right.
around a special effects kit.
Right.
But I didn't say no. I was like, okay. And we were just about to break for lunch. So I turned to my assistant and I'm like, we need to figure out special effects. So her
Right.
and I are going through our makeup kits and
That's
like
awesome.
pulling out like
Yeah.
glycerin and like lip gloss and like trying to like, how can we make fake blood? And like, anyway, we made it work and it was fine.
I love problem solving. I
Yeah.
love it. And if we have a horse that isn't fitting, I really spend a lot of time thinking about, okay, what if we do that? Or what about that? Or how will that environment help or react? And then we experiment. And so through that process, there's a lot of different smaller environments that have evolved on our campus here. So I love problem solving, love thinking of solutions, and also trying to say, okay, that's what was done, but does that horse seem happy
Yeah.
about that solution? And learning how some things that have been done with horses is very valuable and good, and other things were done for human convenience, not for the horse.
In the early stages of having your sanctuary, did you have any like moments of maybe we shouldn't have been doing this?
Absolutely. I don't think anybody doesn't have those moments anytime they're stepping bravely forward in new territory. That's partly why I felt like if we're taking a horse that no one wants, you can let yourself be forgiven a little bit for trying because nobody else would. So it's a little bit of way of keeping you humble. And I think anybody in horses, every time, sometime during the year, is like, why on earth am I do this? Because it's expensive and it's dangerous.
Yeah.
And when I have been injured, which is not often,
Yeah.
people say, well, you were doing this, that was dangerous. It's like, I do dangerous things every day
Yeah.
and I don't get hurt because I know what I'm doing and I know the horses. But if I had gotten hurt, it would be easy to say, well, you were doing something dangerous. I'm crawling under blind Belgian horses an hour ago, blanketing them by myself because it's got to get done. And I know them and they know me and
Mhm.
we have our routines. But if something happened crazy, of course you can get hurt. And
Yeah.
that's a little bit different than a lot of other industries because
Yeah.
you're actually physically more in potential danger around 1,000-pound flight animal.
So you guys are in the Catskills, right?
Yes,
So
we are in the Western Catskill Mountains. Yes,
it's stunning out there. My
it is.
youngest daughter went to Stage Door Manor.
Oh,
Uh,
okay, great.
and
Uh-huh.
and so when I was looking to see where your farm is located, it's an hour and a half from Stage Door Manor, and the drive is like stunning. So I think you guys are you only open to the public a couple times a year. Is that correct?
We are open a lot to the
Oh,
public. We don't tend to have open hours during winter. We have a guest house that is on Airbnb,
oh, great.
and that is extremely popular. When you stay at the guest house, you get a tour. You are offered the opportunity to volunteer. You are given a private grooming session, usually with our trainer and one of our gentle horses. And there's horses out of every window of the house. So you're really immersed when you stay here.
Yeah.
In the summertime, we have tours every Saturday. And then we also have open houses 3 times a year. Open houses on Memorial Day week, Saturday, Labor Day Saturday, and we do a holiday open house as well.
Oh, that's great. I'll have to get the link from you for the Airbnb because that I'll definitely
Absolutely.
have to
Yeah.
put in the show notes for sure.
Yeah. It's
Um,
terrific. Such a cute little house. It's got the
yeah,
best views of our lower fields,
yeah.
better than my house.
I would love to I would love to do that. Honestly, the Catskills are just like it's just so beautiful and I don't know if there's also the opportunity that people could go and stay there, but also do like a hike or two. Do you guys have
Oh,
hikes
yeah.
around your property? It's
You can. Yes, there are
yeah.
hikes around our property, and then there's a lot of local hikes. There's a lot of community around here. There's the Hobart Book Village, which is a
Mhm.
5-minute drive, which
Yeah.
has the most used bookstores, I think, in the country.
Wow.
And then there's Delhi, and there's an amazing bookstore there, as well as some cafes and shops. And they're unique shops, they're not chain shops. And there's a lot of people who have been seeking something that have ended up in this part of the world.
Yeah.
And a lot of the houses on this road, on Roses Brook, are actually closed at this time of year because they're owned by people who live full time in the city. And so we see them seasonally. But,
Right.
I can text them. I drive by their house. Hey, your house is fine. So it's nice to have those relationships. And it's also a great way to stay connected to the city because we both kind of miss some things about the city.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
when we get to see our city friends up here, that's kind of great and get caught up on things.
And get them to bring some stuff for you that you want from the
Yes,
city.
desperate, please. Baked goods, please.
Oh, yeah. There's so many women that in our age category
Mhm.
are wanting to kind of take that leap to do something new,
Yes,
to challenge themselves. So, do you have any advice from your own personal experience?
I do, really, actually, because it's a common question. People are searching and they're just sort of wondering. And I really, really wish that somebody had told me this. Volunteering. I really mean it. You can step a toe into another world without giving up your last one. We were a little bit more radical when we made our leap, but we didn't realize we were making the leap all at once because I would have been too afraid. It's
Yeah,
scary up here. It's cold and the plumbing all froze and nothing works and you can't see any other humans and you can't see any other houses and volunteering is a great thing to do. Not only does it get you out of your own head and your own needs and your own desires, but you can really try other worlds. So we have people volunteer here when they come up to the Catskills. You could go and volunteer at a local shelter if you were thinking you missed animals. You could go and
yeah,
walk dogs.
yeah.
There are, you could work at a homeless shelter for a bit. I know it sounds so cliche, but it really is true. There are ways that you can try on different lives and see.
It's such a great suggestion to do volunteer work. I volunteered at my daughter's high school as the
Hmm.
school council chair, which is equivalent to like the US PTA. Stereotypes aside,
Hmm.
for me, it's like coming as an artist where I don't
Mhm.
work on computers. And so I had to build decks for conversations and host
Oh, great.
online meetings. And half the time I felt like an idiot because there are so many people that are in a corporate background that know how to do all this. And I'm on live going, sorry, I don't know how to do this. So I've learned a little bit how to do that. Obviously, it's not the same as volunteering at a,
No, but we're at most places that accept volunteers are happy to train their volunteers. And that, that's a way to actually get some new skills. I wouldn't have paid me when I started. So, there's a certain advantage to recognizing that, like, well, what you're bringing is yourself and your body, but give that time and then you actually can get something back from that
yeah.
investment as well.
Did you have your friends back in New York telling you you're crazy for doing
Oh,
this?
yes. Yes. Many. Like, "Well, that's okay to buy that place, but you're not staying up there, are
Yeah.
you?" That little whore.
Yeah.
But, that was also people who I knew from very different lives. So, older friends were like, "Oh, I remember you were horse crazy all through school." So, I guess it depends on people's own perspective as to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
great.
not saying it was sane. It was not sane. But in some ways, it feels the closest to reincarnation as I think it must be. I had a completely different life, and now I have this life, except that my consciousness is still attached. Isn't that reincarnation of a form?
Yeah,
That
I would
sounds like
say it's not even, yeah, not even just a pivot. You're in a whole different life
you
now.
also really learn, like, what is you and what isn't you, because I'm type A and I stay busy, and so here I'm on this big empty farm that was paid off. I could have just painted and enjoyed myself, but no, I had to go and start a nonprofit.
Yeah, yeah. You're like, challenge accepted that I'm giving myself.
It's a little you can kinda laugh a little bit at yourself when you realize how much has always been you,
Yeah,
and, and that's good and that's bad, but you just accept it because
yeah,
that's you. I hope you
absolutely.
come up. It'd be great.
You have to send me your
I
Airbnb
will.
link.
You don't have to volunteer, it's okay. You could just do your tour.
Well, when I was a kid, like maybe 5 or 6, did horseback riding lessons. And
Mhm.
when you do the around the world on the saddle to get comfortable with the saddle,
Uh-huh.
I just wanted to basically be like a Western rider, and I kicked my heels and was getting the horse to run around with me on it. And the instructor grabbed the reins and got me off. And my mom came to pick me up. They said, Andrea is no longer welcome in the horseback riding lessons.
Whoa.
I was doing my own thing. And then I was kind of the same. Like she wanted me to learn, and I like horses. I have respect for horses for sure. I do
Mhm.
find them intimidating, but I don't have that passion that my mother has. And
Right.
now she has her horse farm, but I don't think she has any that you can ride now. But there was at one point she did, and I said, I feel like I want to do some riding. Could I ride? Could I ride one of the horses? And she was like, yeah, sure, no problem. And I said, okay, I'll let you know when I'm leaving Toronto because she's in Maryhill. I said, I'll
Okay.
let you know so then you can tack it up for me when I get there. She's like, no, Andrea, if you want to ride the horse, you need to tack it yourself. And I'm the princess of the family.
We all have, we all have passions, and it's great to pay attention to those. And for me, at least, the things that I loved when I was a little kid are still the things that I love. I, applied a lot of those interests towards a career, but then this was just a whole other opportunity, because I loved Brooklyn and I loved my city life. It wasn't that I left it. It was that this was even more interesting at the time.
More of a calling, would you
Yeah,
say?
I guess. And
Yeah.
yes. And then when we had horses, it's like, well, I can't go back. I love our place in the city, but I'm here and I need to take care of the horses. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was a big leap. The guest house is super fun. We did a gut reno on the place and it's so cute.
And the guest house is on, this is a stupid question. Is it on your property?
Oh, yes, it is
Yeah.
on our property. So technically, we close in the winter. We will accept bookings, but you have to write and ask. We had a lot of people come to stay that really were not prepared for winter. And you would end up being cold and miserable. And then you spend a lot of time taking care of them instead of doing your job,
Yeah.
trying to make sure they're happy. And it's the equivalent of maybe a short city block
Oh,
down from
nice.
us.
Yeah.
So if I'm in my house and I look down the road, I can barely see the edge of it.
Yeah.
So it's private. And then there's the guest paddock beside it and a larger paddock behind it, Stardust Meadows. And then you can look across into the valley. We've got this beautiful, big, valley here.
Beautiful.
And
Do you use it for locations too? Like, do people this is me being in the
yeah,
industry,
no,
so
actually, that's something I really want to get more into because I have not yet. We have this historic, beautiful old barn that would be great for film locations, and my husband's used it for some.
yeah.
But it absolutely would be terrific as
And
a.
would you consider for weddings as well, or no, you don't wanna get into
I would not mind it, but I think there's better locations that are
right.
nearby for
Okay.
weddings. We don't have enough. I think we're on the side of a mountain,
Right.
so like
Sounds awful.
our house is here, and then there's the road, and then the next barn is down a little, and then the next barn is down a little, and
Yeah.
then there's the brook.
Wow.
So
Sounds
there's
gorgeous.
switchbacks. But things like parking for guests is a challenge. We don't really have the physical layout to be that kind of an event. We could do engagement shoots. We could do
Yeah.
wedding photos. We have horses that could be in wedding photos. Um, Lots and lots of different horses and donkeys that would be fine with that.
Yeah.
So that is a direction that I keep wanting to expand into, and then I get distracted until it comes up again.
Yeah.
So.
You're like, "Oh,
You can
yeah,
have an
that."
exclusive on us as a destination
Yes.
if you want.
Yes, absolutely. You definitely should plug that. And you could probably do fashion shoots in there as
Absolutely.
well.
I would love to be doing some shoots here because the
Yeah.
place is beautiful. You could see a little bit of it in our Nat Geo piece.
Oh, the Nat Geo
It's
piece is, like, stunning. Like, just absolutely
yeah, and then
stunning.
we've had I Love New York has been here several times
Oh,
doing
okay.
aerial footage of the herds.
Yeah.
There's some of that is on our website if you poke around a little bit, but the website's huge.
Yes.
We wanted
Yeah.
to try and feature every horse and talk
Yeah.
about every horse. So a lot of our horses are not adoptable. They're not listed for adoption because I wouldn't want to make them leave their family.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense.
When we
Uh,
raise youngsters, we will prepare them for riding and we will adopt them out when they're young adults, like 3, 4 years old,
yeah.
because that's about equivalent to us when we were 18. We're like, get me out of here.
Yeah.
So it's a natural time for a young growing being to be venturing forth, having adventures, making their own family. We screen our adopters. And sometimes what happens when a horse heals is that they recover their enjoyment of being with people. They recover what we call their willingness. So for a riding horse, for example, you need them to be sound,
Yeah.
trained, and willing.
Yeah.
And willingness is the most elusive component. And once it's lost, you can't always get it back. But sometimes you do get it back. And that horse now wants more. And so that horse might be a great horse to adopt to a private person where they're going to get more attention,
Yeah.
or they're maybe going to go on trail rides and do more things. Like some horses hate to leave and others love to go on an adventure. I'll hear a whinny and I know who it is and I wait and hear what's going on. And you can tell, you know them. It's like your kids.
Yeah.
All right, are they really hurt or are they just mad hurt? Or are they just missing the other horses? And do I have to get up and go out and fix
Yeah.
this? Yeah,
Are they just being
it's fun.
drama?
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard when I'm not here because when I'm here, I'm so attuned to all of the sounds and like where I know where everybody is right now.
Yeah.
I know who's working. I know what's being done. I have an ear out the window, so if I hear something unusual, I'll know. We have a small crew, and then we have volunteers that sort of come and go. And we more in the summer, unfortunately, but it's just the case. There's fewer humans up here in the winter. Although once you get going, it's so beautiful up here in the winter.
Yeah.
There's snow every day.
Magical.
It really is. And the horses love the snow. Horses are much more comfortable in cold weather than we are. So today's a little tricky because we've got rain for several hours going into snow, and
Mhm.
that's a tough climate for a horse. So
Yeah.
a lot of discussions about who's getting blanketed, are they getting blanketed, who's not. Do I put the heavy blanket on now? Is it going to get soaked? Do I do a rain sheet and then plan on coming back later? Uh, those are just the sort of managerial questions that are the day-to-day housekeeping that
And
we
if you
need
have
to
over
handle.
100 that you need to blanket and take the blankets off,
Yes, it's a lot.
it's a lot.
Now, we don't actually blanket all of our horses. So if the weather's really bad, I might have 60 in blankets. but that means 40 or not.
Yeah.
The wild Mustangs they would be horrified if somebody ever put a blanket on them. They're physically more hardy.
Yeah.
And whereas a man-made breed like a thoroughbred or a Belgian might not be as resilient to the climate and might really appreciate a blanket.
I just think this is so much information that you obviously have accumulated and learned over the years.
I knew nothing. I thought I did, and then I didn't. I remember trying to make Jack a mash one day, and it's like, all right, horses get mash in the cold. I've read this in books. I know this is true. It should have oatmeal. So I made him instant oatmeal. And the look on that horse's face, he was so excited. I'm coming out, and he's at the gate, and he's going back and forth and back and forth, and I'm coming out with a steaming bowl. And it's like, what is that? So, there was a leap between the theoretical, the book dreams, and the real application. But
Yeah.
those things we can tackle. We're intelligent women. We know
Yeah.
how to learn. We know how to
Yeah.
read. We have Google, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
We can learn these things.
Yeah. Oatmeal.
And that poor horse, that was hilarious. Jack was just like, what did you do? So there was, and then blankets, horse blankets. Do you use blankets? Do you not? There are people who are very strong opinions on both sides of that issue. And so then you start to learn that many aspects of horse care are subjective.
Yeah.
So if they're subjective, then how do you make a decision? And we started making decisions first by taking advice and then observing.
Yeah.
That didn't work. That worked. Let's do more of that. I learned that some horses love stalls. I learned that some horses love and need blankets. I learned that some horses need grain. Other horses never get grain here. They have supplements that are out, but they do not need grain. They are gorgeous eating fresh, first cut hay,
Mm-hmm.
which they have 24/7, fresh water, shelters, exercise with each other. So it's now it seems very clear, but it was very muddy at first. But just because you don't know all the answers doesn't mean you can't tackle something
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
try.
And
We bring our amazing brains. We know how to learn. We know
yeah.
how to apply ourselves. And
Yeah.
I think that we can be intimidated by that. And I don't think we should be.
That's a good point. And you guys are a nonprofit, right? So people
Yes,
can donate to you?
absolutely. Yes. Rosemary Farm Sanctuary has been a nonprofit 13 years. We began rescuing informally with Finn and other horses here. But I did not form the nonprofit for several years. I think we had 25 horses when we really were looking at our income
Mm-hmm.
and saying we have to fish or cut bait. So at that point, we decided to form the nonprofit. And by then we had a kind of strong idea of the ethics of what we were tackling, and that some people are annoyed by our ethics and some people think we're idiots and other people think that we're, revolutionary.
Yeah.
I think it's okay to bring fresh eyes to old problems and see if there might be a solution that other people just have missed because they're so stuck in certain ways, the way things have been done.
Yeah. I
Um,
love that. Fresh eyes to old problems.
when we began, there was a bunch of people who began nonprofit rescues for horses. And now you can see the ones that have survived, that we all know each other and
Mm-hmm.
respect each other and we know our strengths. I think that, I started first just because I saw a need. And
Yeah.
literally I was at an auction and that horse needed somebody to say yes.
Yeah.
And then learning that there's a lot of need and that American horses are still shipping to slaughter. The numbers have come way, way down since we began. It was coincidentally, Rosemary Farm began at the height of slaughter shipments. And so the numbers are 1/10 of it now, which is great.
And what's the is there a primary reason for horses going to slaughter, or is there a bunch of different reasons why that
Slaughter
happens?
is a equine slaughter is a parasitic industry that has evolved because there are cheap throwaway horses. And so someone can purchase a horse for much less at auction than it would cost to grow that horse into an adult horse. So you're talking about a lot of horses that had a career
Mhm.
or that might have been just left abandoned in a field somewhere. And so they buy them for $100 and then they can flip it and make money. Americans, by and large, do not eat horse meat, but there are countries where it is still a tradition and custom. And
Mhm.
so they horses in the Northeast will ship across into Canada, and then they're slaughtered, and the meat is exported to other countries. There's a lot of South America, Central America, France, Japan, Belgium. There's countries that just still do eat horse. Unfortunately, I don't think they know that the horses they're getting are poorly regulated. Horse coming out of off the track has had drugs administered that are not for human consumption. So the meat is not necessarily safe.
Right.
Even if you don't care about horses, if you care about other humans, it's just a poor decision. I don't eat meat, but for those who do, the USDA tracks the drugs that go into every animal, and they have an ear tag, and they know exactly what has been given to that animal so that they're creating a safe food source. Throwaway horses are not a safe food source. And as horses become less available to that, then the industry will just turn its direction to another direction. I mean, that's all it is. It's
Yeah.
nothing, in a way, it's nothing personal. You know, if you bought and sold pencils and there was a source for cheap broken pencils and somebody wanted cheap broken pencils, you would buy them and flip them.
Right. Yeah.
And now the challenge online is that there are a lot of 21st century trading going on online where people will say that they're going to send the horse to slaughter, but they're really nice people. And so they're going to give anyone a week to buy that horse and save it. And this has become an enormous problem, not only for rescues, but for horses, because these dealers will now outbid private homes at auction and outbid rescues at auction for the saddest looking horse there. And then they wave it around online and they say, this horse is $1,000 and you can send money to us and we will add it to its total to help save its life. There's no accountability.
Wow.
You're basically just mailing money to a stranger, and you're mailing money to somebody that you wouldn't want to support continuing anyway. So you're
You're right.
strengthening the very people we're working against. And that has become a huge problem. Most of the time when people donate, it's not a donation because they're not a nonprofit. They don't want the horse. They can't take the horse. They just want to help save that horse's life. But the horses who were going to ship to slaughter already shipped. You're not stopping slaughter. The guy now just buys more. So
Right.
he ships to slaughter and then he lists a few online and he
So it's
makes money doing that.
just a big scam.
It's a big scam and it's a problem because really kind donors fall for it. I fell for it too at
Yeah.
first. I bought 4 horses and then they were putting more horses on my rig and it was a big fat mess and I was getting sick, misdescribed horses. And then I would get people call and say, I paid for that horse. Then you realize that horse was paid 3 times over.
Wow.
There's no accountability for it. So they're making a ton of money. And you could say, okay, well, the horse got safe. So that was, so it worked. But if the market hadn't existed, the dealer wouldn't have bought the horse in the first place.
So what should people be looking for? Because that sounds like something really important. So if someone is like online and they see, like, what do you look for these call outs for donations?
If people want to donate to help horses, find a responsible, registered 501c3. We're also a member of a group called GFAS, which is the Global Federation of Animal Sanctuaries. And GFAS is, I believe, the only organization that sets standards for nonprofit animal sanctuaries. And they have this huge, thick book, and it tells you how you should be setting up. And they want people to elevate their level of care. So we were originally certified by GFAS, I think 7 years ago.
Okay.
And then they come back every 3 years. So we just were recertified at the end of 2025.
So they come and inspect your farm
They come
and
and
everything.
inspect, they open every medicine cabinet. They're like, this one's expired. Sorry. They're like, then they send you photos. You need to fix this. But I love that because it helps you feel more confident that what
Yeah,
you're
it's
doing is good.
accountability,
So
right?
GFAS has their own website and they list their approved rescues. So if people don't know how to choose, you can go onto GFAS and choose one of those. At
Yeah,
least you know that they've had certification.
yeah.
The online scams they're worse than ever.
I'm so glad that we talked about this.
We have people who do want the horse, who get a horse that is 10 years older than it was described. It's sick. Horses sometimes come off the rig and drop dead. And then people feel horrible because they feel scammed and there's no recourse. They bought a horse without looking at it.
Yeah.
And so if you're going to buy a horse online, you better have no expectations of riding, no expectations of anything. You're just saving a life. And you may or may not get the horse. And the horse may or may not exist. They'll sometimes reuse photos. So it's really difficult to be a good person sometimes.
Yeah. Wow.
And realize that you're sort of the target. One reason that our website features every horse that we have is that we want people to feel confident that there is accountability here. There's no horse here that we haven't talked about, and no horse disappears.
Yeah.
So if we fundraise for a horse, we have the horse, or it's been adopted under one of our contracts, and I can write and get a photo today of any horse. And so it's tricky. It's tricky being a good person in this world right now, but it's possible.
Thanks for tuning in to the Fuck You 50s. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to follow and rate the podcast. And we would love to connect with you on Instagram. So be sure to follow us at the Fuck You 50s. The Fuck You 50s is hosted by Andrea Claire. See you next time.